Okay, this video is to explain how to factor trinomials when a is equal to 1. For quadratic equations, a will be in front of x squared, b will be in front of x, and c is your constant and should always be at the end. If it's not, you can always rearrange the equation to standard form, so it goes a, b, c. So the first thing we're going to do is label a, b, and c. So like I said, a is in front of x squared, so you look for x squared. If you don't see a number, it's understood to be a 1, so a is 1, okay? B is in front of x, so look through your expression, find x, and that number in front of x is b. So a is 1, b is 7, and then the last one should be your constant. Remember, a constant is a number without a variable, and if you look at our example, the 12 is at the end and it does not have a variable, so that should be our constant. So that is our C. Okay. So now that we've labeled A, B, and C, we can go ahead and open our parentheses. So when we factor, so we have to use the parentheses to show or to rewrite them as the product of two linear factors. It takes two linear, or if you take two linear equations and multiply them, you end up with a quadratic. So working backwards, you have a quadratic and you want to break it down, it will give you two linears. Okay, so our first thing is to split the squared term. The only way to make x squared is x times x. So we're going to split that. Then that takes us to the last step where it says find the factors of C that combine to make B. But before we get there, I want to go ahead and take care of our signs. If your C is positive, you're either going to have a plus plus situation or a minus minus. And that depends on what this is. So once you see that this is positive, then you look here. I see 7 is also positive, so that means I'm going to use plus plus. Okay, if the 7 was negative, it would have been minus minus. Alright, now we find the factors of C. Well, our C is 12. So what are the ways we can make 12 through multiplication? Well, we can do 1 times 12. It's a little comma. Alright, 2 times 6 and 3 times 4. But that the factors need to also combine to make B, where B is 7. So all three of these sets will multiply to 12, but we need to find which one will add up, especially since both of these are positives, like plus signs. Which set will add up to 7? So we have 1 and 12. Well, what's 1 plus 12? That's 13. That's a no. Alright, 2 plus 6, that's 8, that's a no. But 3 plus 4 is 7, and that is what our B is. So that is what we're going to use. Once you figure out the set of factors that you're going to use, then you just slip them into the parentheses and we're done. So it's going to be x plus 3 times x plus 4. Okay, so here's another example of factoring trinomials. We're going to follow the same steps and just work our way through it. So our first step is always to label your A, B, and C. Again, A is in front of x squared. If you don't see a number there, it is automatically a 1. Okay. B is in front of x. So our B in this case is 5, positive 5. And C is your constant, which should be in the back. Remember, a constant does not have a variable, so since negative 24 does not have a variable attached to it, that is our C. So we labeled A, B, and C. Again, A is 1, B is 5, C is negative 24. Okay? So the next step says to open your parentheses. Again, we have to show that this is the product of two linear factors. Product is multiplication. And then we split the squared term. Squared term here is just 1x squared, so x times x. Now we can take care of the signs now. If you want, it's your choice. You'll see later on when I handle the factors that that will actually give you the signs as well. So C is negative 24. So if you look back to our little sign chart to help us, if C is negative, you automatically use a positive in one parentheses and a negative in the other. So I'm going to put a positive here and a minus here. Okay. Then we find the factors of C. Our C is negative 24. Okay, so the fact that this is negative means that we can either do, like, let's take 1 and 24 for example. 1 times 24 is a positive 24, but to end up with a negative, one of these has to be negative. So it's either going to be a negative 1, positive 24, or a positive 1 and a negative 24. Okay, and that's the same for all the factors of negative 24. So this is what I mean by this will also take care of the signs. Obviously, you see which number is negative and which number is positive. So again, we're still trying to find the factors of C that combine to make B. So our B is a positive 5, so we do have to be careful when C is negative with our finding the correct B. Alright, so, or the correct factors that give us B. So 1 and 24, 1 and negative 24, negative 1 and 24. Either way it goes, if I combine this, like 24 minus 1 or 1 minus 24, that's not going to give me a 5. So I'm just going to move on from these. There's 2 and 12. But I know any type of way that I subtract those is not going to give me 5. We can do 3 and 8 also gives us 24. But I know if I subtract a 3 and an 8, I can somehow get a 5. Okay, so you can either look at it as this is a negative 24, so one of these has to be negative. So your two combinations. So negative 3, positive 8, or positive 3, negative 8. And then just see which one will give you a positive 5. Negative 3 plus 8 is positive 5. 3 minus 8 is negative 5. So the combination that we need is here. So that means the 3 is going to go with the negative, and the 8 is going to go with the positive. And our answer to this, or the factors of x squared plus 5x minus 24, is x plus 8 times x minus 3.